Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome back to our Friday and Saturday Bhakti Shastri series. We are discussing the nectar of instruction. We are on text 1. We had 2 classes on text 1. Today is the 3rd class. I'll just briefly have a recap of what we have discussed so that we are up to date. And then I'll continue the discussion. So text 1 is speaking about the 6 Vegas. And we saw how paragraph 1 and 2, Prabhupada speaks about atonement from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Before discussing the 6 urges, how by the process of karma kanda, we do prashchit, but we don't control senses. So again, we end in committing sin. And even by the path of vimarshanam, that is jnana, still the seed or the propensity to commit sin is not completely uprooted. Only by the process of bhakti, the very propensity to sin, to commit sin, is uprooted, and that's why the bhakti process is glorious. So although there are other processes to be situated in knowledge, tapasya, brahmacharena, shamena, dhamena, tyagena, satya, sauchabhyam, yamena, niyamena va, but Rupa Goswami advocates the easy process to surrender to the Supreme Personality Godhead and the spiritual master by following the 4 regulative principles and chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So having established that in these 2 paragraphs, Srila Prabhupada now, by the process of bhakti, how to pacify these 6 urges. What is the bhakti process of pacifying these 6 urges? He comes to that. And we saw the control of speech. There is the negative aspect, the materialistic and the Mayavadi talk, the analogies of the frog and snake. The neutral aspect is the external process of mauna, again the Mayavadi philosophers. Then there is controlled speech, the positive aspect, that is Krishna Katha. That is how we can control the urge to speak. The urge of the mind. There is darkness. This is negative thoughts or negative aspect, uncontrolled mind. Trying to create vacuum is the neutral aspect. Still the mind is uncontrolled. Then the positive aspect is discussing or thinking always about Krishna. That is how we can control the manaveg. That is the simple process which Srila Prabhupada explains about manaveg. Then we saw the urge of the anger. We have to become angry at those who blaspheme the devotees or the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example of Jagai and Madai. And this, how we have to use it, we quite elaborately discussed in the last class. Then utilization of the anger in the service of the Lord, two examples, Hanuman and Arjuna. And whether we can utilize anger in the service of Krishna, we discussed quite in detail how these two personality examples are eternal liberated souls. And only one who has mastered these six senses, one who is not under the control of anger, can use anger and withdraw anger and not get affected. And we gave examples of Prabhupada himself, how he used to sometimes become furious and angry, and his anger was transcendental anger for the service of Krishna. So sadhakas at all times should control anger. So that was our conclusion. Then we discussed, Prabhupada in one paragraph speaks about controlling the tongue and the belly by taking Krishna Prasad, and some attitudes and some important points Prabhupada brings out in the purport with respect to taking at scheduled times, not eating in sweetmeat shops, or not eating according to one's choice. So the next paragraph, one paragraph Prabhupada discusses of the Upastha Vegam. So we will take up this and then we will continue our discussion. So let us take this paragraph on Upastha Vegam. This is paragraph 7 as per Vedabase. In a similar manner, the urges of... Okay, there is a question. Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, we didn't have time last time. You said you'll tell a story about Madhavendra Puri, about control of tongue, Prabhu.
About Madhavendra Puri.
Also, you said you'll tell a story where everything used to be mixed up and they used to take
Yes, that I will come up when I take Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary. Thank you for reminding. Grateful. I will take it up now when I take the Anuvritti commentary which Prabhupada mentions. That time I will take up both these things. Any other question or clarification? I prefer everyone keep their videos on so that we can see that all are sitting and attentively hearing and referring the book also. So preferably the networks are very good in Muscat, so you can keep your videos on. So let us take now this last urge which Prabhupada is speaking. In the similar manner, the urges of the genital, the sex impulse, can be controlled when not used unnecessarily. The genitals should be used to beget a Krishna conscious child. Otherwise, they should not be used. Prabhupada keeps it very simple, plain, and clear. The Krishna conscious movement encourages marriage not for the satisfaction of genitals, but for begetting Krishna conscious children. So marriage is encouraged for begetting Krishna conscious children. As soon as the children are grown up, they are sent to our Gurukul school where they can be trained to become fully Krishna conscious devotees. Many such Krishna conscious children are required, and one who is capable of bringing forth Krishna conscious offspring is allowed to use his genitals. So Prabhupada is explaining that the purpose is to use the genitals is to bring forth a Krishna conscious child. So that this child can be given samskars right from Garbhadham samskars. And then ultimately with this samskars he is born, he can take training of Krishna consciousness right from birth and become a preacher and deliver the whole world. So that was Prabhupada's plan. So how we should raise Krishna conscious children, so that, there are many devotee preachers required. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur once made a statement that if I was sure that I could beget Krishna conscious children, then I would have got married, and at last I would have begotten hundreds of children. But I'm not sure about it, that I'll be able to produce Krishna conscious children. So he made the statement, but ultimately it is to be understood that the purpose is to give samskars to the children so that they can ultimately become Krishna conscious and they can actually deliver the parents in one sense. So that is how Prabhupada keeps it very, very simple in one paragraph. A lot of elaborate discussion is there in his Anuvritti commentary, which I will take up when we discuss the Anuvritti commentary, which will soon begin. There is a one line, one paragraph, which is one line. Prabhupada gives a short conclusion to his commentary here. So I will read it. Please hear carefully. One who is practiced in the methods of Krishna conscious control, he can become qualified to be a bona fide spiritual master. Kindly hear once again. Kindly see my reading, whether I'm reading correctly. One who is practiced in the methods of Krishna conscious control, he can become qualified to be a bona fide spiritual master. So any mistakes, anything you have to say about it? What I read this statement? Anything I missed out? Anyone would like to say something? Can raise their hands. Yes, one Mataji has pointed out, fully. Fully, yes. So Prabhupada's every statement has to be scrutinizedly studied. No, not who, it is fully. So one who is fully practiced, that means one who has completely practiced controlling all these urges and he has become a master of his senses. He is qualified to become a spiritual master, qualified to become a spiritual master and make disciples all over the world. Whereas one who is not yet struggling still and is trying to practice these principles, trying to control these urges, he is a Madhyamadhikari, Goswami. He has still not, fully attained perfection. So that is why, if you remember, when we were discussing text 1, I had mentioned that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that text 1 speaks of a Tridandi Swamir Lakshan and also a self-controlled Madhyamadhikari symptoms. So Madhyamadhikari is still in the practicing stage, whereas Tridandi Goswami, he is fully practiced and fully mastered the control of all these 6 urges. So that's the difference between the two. So now we will go to the third theme in the text 1 purport. The third theme here is the Anuvritti explanation. That is from paragraphs 9 to 19. So in paragraphs 9 to 19, Srila Prabhupada literally paraphrases Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's explanation. So we will now go through that explanation. So let us first read. In his Anuvritti explanation of the Updeshamrit, so I had explained what is Anuvritti. Anuvritti is the name of the commentary given by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur to his Updeshamrit commentary. And I explained how Bhaktivinoda Thakur also wrote a commentary, and his commentary name is the Piyush Varshini Tika. Piyush means nectar, Varshini means shower, and Vritti, not Tika, Vritti it is. Vritti means again commentary. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote his commentary following in the footsteps of his father and spiritual master Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and that's why he named this as Anuvritti. Anuvritti means following his spiritual master Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So both these commentaries are excellently brilliant, and devotees, after a few years studying Srila Prabhupada's Updeshamrit commentary and completely, in one sense, fully mastering it, should definitely study these two commentaries of the Acharyas, and it will help us to enhance, understand bhakti, and ultimately attain the goal of bhakti. But many of the explanations from the Anuvritti commentary Prabhupada is included in his Updeshamrit commentary, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary is quite unique, and only one or two points here and there Prabhupada has included in his commentary. So let us now see what Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had to say. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that our material identification creates three kinds of urges. Because we identify ourselves with the body. So there is the urge to speak. Then there is the urges or the demands of the mind. And then the demands of the body. So all these three urges are on the bodily platform based on the material identification. When a living entity falls victim to these three types of urges, his life becomes inauspicious. So if we come under the dictation of these three urges, our life becomes inauspicious. In one way, we become contaminated in one sense. So that is the statement, so heavy statement of Prabhupada. One who practices resisting these demands or urges is called a tapasvi, or one who practices austerities. So here is another definition of what is tapasvi according to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Prabhupada also had given the definition of tapasya here. Training according to regulative principles, certain principles to revive the original knowledge, and such methodical life is called as tapasya. But here resisting these demands of these three urges is what is defined as tapasya. By such tapasya, one can overcome victimization of the material energy, the external potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So devotees also have to do some tapasya to become free from these demands of the urges to speak, urges of the mind, demands of the body. I'll tell you one real-time example which I heard from one of the books. Yamuna Devi Dasi, Yamuna Mataji, everyone knows, who famously has sung this Govinda Madi Purusham prayers. She was there with Prabhupada in Vrindavan. She was cooking for Prabhupada in Vrindavan in Radha Damodar temple. And this was her first experience to be in Vrindavan. And it was summer. And in Vrindavan, summer is extremely hot. The first night, when she was sleeping, she was sweating. So she took a blanket, soaked it in the water, and then covered herself with the blanket. Within 5 minutes, the blanket dried up. And then she again took the blanket, soaked it in the water, again covered, again within 5-10 minutes, the blanket dried up. So practically whole night she was doing this back and forth. She could not tolerate the heat and cold. She was battling internally to become free from this heat, That's with her spiritual power and determination at the intellectual level and the soul level. She said, let me tolerate this. So it took some time to become free from this duality.
Guruji Hare Krishna, there is some disturbance, Prabhu. Sound is not clear.
Sound is not clear.
Yes, the sound is not clear.
Hare Krishna. Is it better now?
No.
Maybe Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. No.
Not yet. Change. So let me see whether yeah. So is it better now? Moment of truly? Is it better now?
Some cracking sound is there, Prabhu.
I'm getting also that sound. Right.
I don't know. Is it the issue in the Zoom?
Yeah, there is some disturbance sound which is coming from me also. Although should I relog in and check?
Uh, yeah, Prabhu, you can try that.